Safety meeting to order, and we will do a roll call, please.
Alderperson Hall.
Here.
Alderperson Morissette.
Here.
Alderperson Wakely.
Here.
Thank you. And the next item is the approval of our May 4th meeting minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Any corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Right into the business. Right into the heavy business of number 4 of new business, winter parking discussion. Not a fun topic, but it is a necessary thing, and I know we're having problems in certain parts of the city, in particular over by the industrial park, Aspen Drive, et cetera.
Yeah, and it's really all over. And I think, you had mentioned getting some examples
Yeah.
to look at, and the majority of the examples that I pulled from the area are alternate side parking. Rice Lake's the only one that prohibits parking during snow removal times. They can park on the streets any other time, but during snow removal, they have to remove their cars. So I think this is a bigger issue than like public safety. I think Mike Moraz probably has to be involved in this.
Sure.
It's
gotta
probably
start
have to look
somewhere.
at some of the ordinances on how quick they can get towed, stuff like that. I mean, it's a bigger, it's more complex, I think, than just, saying, yeah, we need to
So
find a
reading
solution.
through,
It's-
so reading through ours and then reading through the examples that you have, what would you identify as the better solution for the city of Hudson to adopt?
Personally, I'd like to see no winter parking, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
No winter parking?
Yeah. I think Public Works would prefer that, because then they can plow curb to curb every time. But, I think alternate side is good. I know it's a pain in the butt that every day you gotta go move your car.
Right, but for removing snow.
But for
that's
removing snow, and
essential.
that's, even talking to some of the plow drivers, that was frustrating for them, where every day there was cars were not moved, right? And then it gets froze down, and then they can't peel it up, and it just becomes more of a road hazard than anything eventually.
So,
And that keeps it simple too, that it's not, I think sometimes some policies get so, like, you can't figure out, is it have to be this much snow, or, is it a snow emergency or not? But if it was just odd even, I think that's gonna keep it consistent. Well, people will get used to it easier than deciding when you wake up, is this a snow emergency day or not? And
I think the one problem that we would run into would be, I'll use Aspen as an example. They can only park on one side, because the opposite side is all the mailboxes for the condos there. So they couldn't move their cars, and I don't know how we're gonna combat that, when they plow the lots, because that's really when it gets pretty bad down there, is when the lots try to get plowed. They're parking in front of the fire hydrants, and then they'll sit there for days in front of fire hydrants. And then even where I live, like on South Point, with the amount of snow, eventually it comes out on the road. You're gonna have that. But when they park on both sides at night, you almost can't get a car through. And I don't think people realize how tight those streets are. And our worry was we couldn't get a fire truck through if we had to, so.
And Heritage Green also has some roads that are only one-side parking no matter what.
Okay, so I think as a whole, one side of parking in the winter, now, whether you just designate one side of the street as the side, or try to flip-flop it every day, I don't know. Flip-flopping it might be beneficial to Public Works, because when they flip it, they can go back the next day and plow that side out, And that's, I think we were running into problems, like on Aspen, was they couldn't get in to plow because there's all those cars there. But when they finally could, they had nowhere to put the snow, because there was so much they had to push. So then the cars kept creeping out, because the snowbanks kept creeping out the street.
I don't know if you know, but Lieutenant, do you know if it's a municipal ordinance, you have to 24 hours before we can tow, or is that a state statute?
Just municipal ordinance.
So is that something we need to change to
Yeah, 'cause I think the
immediately?
police
or-
chief had mentioned it could take up to 48 hours before that could be enforced, because they have to give it, I'm trying to think how he worded it, and I'd have to look again, but it was like, there's a ticket, and then there's 24 hours to get another ticket, then after the second ticket, it's like 48 hours before you can actually tow the vehicle.
No, so
No,
we
that's not true.
Okay, I
So what it is,
misunderstood.
it's a 24-hour, no parking. All year round, you're only able to leave your vehicle parked in one location on the street for 24 hours. And then after that 24 hours, you have to move it,
Okay.
otherwise it can be ticketed and towed. Typically, when there's a winter event, And I know it's changed so many times since I've been here over the years. The only thing that's been consistent is the 24-hour no parking. So you would show up, if there's a violation, you'd placard the vehicle, chalk the tires, and then the next day you would come back, and if the vehicle's still there, it would be ticketed and towed.
Okay. And
But
I'm
if it's
not,
in front of a
But
hydrant.
that is separate from the current winter rules that we have now. The 24-hour rule is different than the winter parking. They're kind of two different parking regulations combined into one, so it gets very, very confusing for people. The no hydrant, what were you gonna say, Joyce?
So, okay, so he's also concerned about hydrants, so it's not just, because we talked about the hydrants, but
Yep.
there's nothing in here on the agenda about the hydrants right now.
That's,
State,
It's
state,
still-
that's
it's
state
still-
statute.
yeah.
statute, yeah.
But,
It's 10.
but
They went
but
down
wasn't
and-
there something in our ordinance, though, that had to be updated in order to make sure that they could tow immediately if it was in front of a hydrant?
Boy, not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
And they were down ticketing a lot, I know. They did a really
Yeah.
nice job. It's just,
well, but I mean, if people are parking in front of hydrants for
extended time.
more
yeah,
than
and
an
they-
hour, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
So what's the next step?
well, so the question I pose to you, which one of these, if any, is what you're wanting, or are you looking to do, just say odd even and be done with it?
I think odd even would probably be the best, would be
Yeah.
the most, and probably, and I don't know if you just do it year round, probably not necessary. But from that November 1 to April 1 is kind of the common dates that I see in most
I would do it
ordinances.
seasonal, just because
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the river
Yeah.
town, we have so many
Oh, yeah.
things happening on the downtown area.
Would that be something you'd want to get together with Mike Moraz and kind of just put together a draft for us to look at?
Probably. I
Okay.
think, find out what their concerns are too.
Yeah.
And then if PD has any concerns with it too. I mean, I'm not trying to make more work for anybody. It's just,
Too late.
Everybody needs
I
to
know,
look
but
at
there
it.
was a lot of streets this winter that would be very, very different. And I was, we were concerned about it,
Yeah.
So,
So then, but a plan needs to be in there for the streets where you've only got one side of the street parking to start with, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
there- Either exceptions or maybe go with just the one
Well,
side of the street.
we
or-
know that there'll be exceptions, but identify
Okay.
in the ordinance.
do
and then-
believe, doesn't Public Works, if they declare a winter, snow emergency, right, or a
Plowing event.
plowing event on, that they can't park for 24 hours or something? I believe there is something to that effect, like they have to, the cars downtown have to be cleared out, there's certain rules that go into place when the plow event gets
Yeah.
issued.
Yes, everybody has to remove their car.
Yeah, so,
And then there are a few residents who do have permission to park on the streets during a snow emergency
Okay.
because they have no place to
Okay.
park
Yeah.
off the street.
so I think the odd even is probably the way to go, with the exception of streets that only have one side of parking. But I think it
Okay.
has to be enforced to the point that they have to move to allow the Public Works to get the streets plowed, right? So I think I would probably sit down with Mike and try to figure something out.
I think that's the best way to go, so it's clear, because they benefit and have the issues too.
And right now, part of the problem where the current ordinance falls down is the enforcement aspect of it.
Yeah,
I think the intent was good when this was created quite a while ago, but from a law enforcement perspective, it's a very difficult ordinance to enforce, the current system.
okay.
Because you can write a ticket to a vehicle, well, that doesn't remove the vehicle, and then you can't remove it until that 24 hours kicks in the next day based on that 24-hour ordinance, which is separate than the
So we need to
current
pull that
ordinance.
out of the ordinance so
you
that it can be towed
so
right
you
away.
can- You can issue, currently, the way the system is, if somebody's in violation of the snow event, you can give them a ticket, but you don't tow the vehicle. So then the plows still can't get through, emergency vehicles still can't get through until that next day. So you need to put something in the ordinance that says, if they are in violation, it's not just a ticket, it's a ticket and the vehicle gets hooked and removed
Yeah.
from the street at that time.
And I think that this fall, if we are to change this ordinance, this fall, we really need to do a lot of education so that people are aware of what's going to be happening and how things have changed. So a note in the utility bills and then an article in the newspaper and information on the,
Here's the path this needs to take now. We'll recommend it out of here to Public Works.
Okay,
Let Public Works eat it and see what they can come up with to add.
sure.
And then we go to legal counsel for the ordinance part of it as far as towing and making sure it's legal and concise
Yep.
and to the point. The simpler, the better, so folks understand it.
Agreed.
Do you think having someone from, law enforcement to work with you and Mike as well would be,
I think
To
all
tie
three of us
that-
need to sit down and come up with something that
Okay.
appeases everybody, yeah. Yep.
all right.
So that is my motion, with
so,
law enforcement as well, which I thought was common sense, that they'd be there at the table, all three chiefs, or director and two chiefs. And maybe even have John, I mean, but it's the same concerns you have,
Yes.
as far as the ambulance is concerned.
Yep, and I know he had mentioned it too, that they had a difficult time this winter,
Yeah.
so. Yep, no, that works for me.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion or ideas, Lieutenant? Anything?
No, I think that's a good path.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Good discussion. Thanks, Drew, for bringing that up for winter parking. Let's go down to the number C, bus traffic on Chestnut Drive.
Okay.
And I guess probably it came from you, right, Joyce?
Yes, it did.
So, and I know there's people here from Safeway, the school district, and a neighborhood up there. So,
Okay. So I know there are a couple of people here that want to speak on this issue. And all right, so buses on the Chestnut. First of all, it's a safety issue. There are no sidewalks. You've got snow piled up on either side during the winter, which narrows the street. There's not a lot of room for the buses to turn the corners. They're going too fast, so they're making a lot, so they're noisy. But also, there are 7 turns from Vine Street into the parking lot, and every time they turn a corner, then they put a lot of stress on the asphalt on the street. Neighbors have expressed concern about the safety issues. In fact, I got a call this evening before I came here, and got two people here who are here to speak on this issue, so.
who wants
Nick
to
or
start
Tim?
first? Nick, you want to come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, my name's Nick Coliani. I live at 1113 Juniper Way. So I want to reiterate a lot of the same points that Joyce just made, but also in the morning, the students who live in the neighborhoods behind the school are walking on that same road, walking along the edge of the road where there are no sidewalks, competing with the buses to get into the school. Once you get near the school property on Oak, there's not a good way to get onto the school property except to go through the same drive lanes that the buses share. So as the students are trying to get onto the property, they encounter bus traffic as well. Unfortunately, there are no sidewalks behind the school along Oak for these students to access the school. And that doesn't just create problems during bus times, but it creates problems during other times when events are going on the practice fields and people are parking along Oak and 12th, taking up both sides of the street, not letting the bus, or not letting, giving the ability for safety vehicles to get through, or even people who live there. You can't have two-way traffic on the same roads at the same time. So I support Joyce in this endeavor. I don't think the buses should be on Chestnut flowing onto Oak Street, at least until we get better access for, better safety access for kids and pedestrians in that area.
Good. Anybody else want to speak to that? I think we know this guy, but for the record,
Full disclosure, I'm Joyce Hall's husband. I'm Timothy Hall. I live on 1105 Maple Drive. And I'm just going to echo what has already been said. I come from a background in automotive and transportation, and I know some of the dynamics that happen with road surfaces and transit vehicles and buses. It's not just the weight of the vehicle, It's the axle weight and how much pressure is being put down by each tire, the dynamic load on the surface. So as it was mentioned, as these vehicles take these corners, and these corners are fairly narrow and tight, the side loading from the tires onto the pavement causes a lot of strain on the asphalt that's in there. We've seen numerous potholes develop in the last few years with the bus traffic, particularly on the corners. Again, the sidewalks, we're a turnover neighborhood at this point, a lot of young families with young kids. The kids are playing along the street. Chestnut does not have sidewalks. Grandview has them on one side. But in general, the access for students going to and from the school or to other activities is in conflict with the heavy buses that are moving through at the same time. We also have the temporary speed humps that have been put in place on the street on Chestnut. That's been great for slowing down traffic, but it does, with the long wheelbase of a bus, create additional pavement impacts from the vehicles going over. So with that said, I think it seems like Vine Street would seem to be the natural way to get a heavy vehicle in and out of the school. I believe it was designed for that. Not quite sure how they ended up on Chestnut, but I would be in favor from a safety standpoint and from a road maintenance standpoint to move those over to Vine. Thank you.
So Tim, you're suggesting to move the route for a solution?
In the short term, until we can get a safer way for students to get back and forth along that back passage into the high school. But it seems to me that it's got to be also somewhat inefficient for the bus drivers, because I watch them come by in the morning and leave in the afternoon. I'm not in a lawn chair yet doing that, but I do come out sometimes seeing it. And those are tight turns for those long vehicles to take. So,
Thank you.
And I just got an email also at 4:43 from one of the residents. I understand there's a public safety meeting tonight, which I unfortunately won't be able to attend. I just wanted to forward this email on again to reiterate our thoughts on the need for sidewalks on the north and west sides of the school. So there's...
A representative of the school district is here, and so is
Okay.
Safeway.
All
If you
right.
guys want to come to either one, you heard some of the suggestions that are being thrown around, moving the bus route, and let's be honest, I'm born and raised here, a couple other people are. It was never intended to be as busy as it was up in that neighborhood. It just wasn't. And then we built and we got so big and fast growing, and here we are.
And
trying to
unfortunately, we
fix it.
haven't gotten the grant money to do a safe routes to school assessment also.
Okay,
for the
that was
high
one
school.
question.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and state your name and record for the,
Andrea Velker, HR Director for the Hudson School District, as well as work collaboratively with Safeway Bus Company from the district perspective and in charge of transportation, so.
and I'll let you lead the conversation, Joyce, but, when the referendum went through to build the new high school and remodel it and all, was the bus route included in that, or is that a later thought?
My understanding is it was designed in part of the proposal to always separate bus traffic from student and parent traffic, which means that the bus routes had to go to the back of the building, and it was designed that way, is my understanding.
That's my understanding,
The school might
too.
have, but the streets were not.
No, okay, so, yeah, so my understanding, because I had a conversation with Nick Willett on this as well, and of course, he's not happy about this, but I said, we've got to at least discuss this. Anyway, he said that there was a traffic study done before the school was remodeled, and that was the recommendation from the traffic study to put the buses in the back. And so then the design was built on that. But we've tried that, and it's not working. That's,
Well, and unfortunately, I believe because of the composition of the building, I mean, it would, there's only two ins and outs, so the way that the parking lot was structured in the front with the student traffic there, it would be impossible to separate out the buses from that student traffic at the end of the day. So I don't know what a good option is on that. I wasn't involved in the design aspect of it, but that's my understanding, is that there isn't anywhere else for the buses to
And
go.
the front of the building is not able to access, to accommodate bus traffic.
Right,
the way it's currently set up.
yes.
Okay? Go ahead and state your name and
Tom Stiles, Safeway Bus.
so, you've probably heard more than on occasion that the people are frustrated with the way your drivers are driving within our city. I don't know if you've heard that or
I
not.
haven't heard a lot of that. I've heard we've had some calls in the past, but it hasn't been a huge number of calls.
It's-
I understand the situation back there and how that works, and there's beautiful homes back there and buses running in and out of there, but there's really no other option for us besides coming down, and we do use 11th, coming off of Bear. We'll use that, but when winter hits, the snow it's so slippery that Road Fillmore is impossible to use.
Yeah.
Coming the other way in front of the school, if we weren't gonna go past the school and pass all those cars that are parked out in front and everyone trying to get into the school, then go to 11th or 12th, that's a really tight, scary hill to start up at almost a dead stop also in the wintertime. So in a big period of time is winter when we're driving on those roads.
I'd like to have an open communication with Safeway and the school district, and let's work together at trying to find the best solution we can at the cheapest cost, obviously, for the community up there, and especially the folks in the neighborhood. Joyce, you've been bringing this up for 6 years.
Yes.
And short of going out and stopping the buses, I think there might, I don't want to be a heavy hand and ticket your bus drivers if they're doing something nefarious out there, but
Well, certainly, we hope they're not. And if they were, I know Tom is very all over any drivers if they're violating expectations or violating rules of the road. Our understanding is that be corrected. So sharing that information with Tom would be important so that we can address that head on.
Yeah, I would call us right away. We'll talk about that again, especially being here, at our drivers' meetings, our safety meetings, we do monthly. If we get a habitual phone call that keeps coming about a particular driver in an area, I'll tell that parent, go ahead and call the police. Let them know. I'm not gonna support a driver that's speeding around town. And I tell the drivers that too, so.
I think maybe a conversation of just slowing down altogether, unfortunately.
Rarely get any complaints.
Yeah,
Rarely. I mean,
really?
I could probably count on one hand how many actual complaints that we've got
To the
at
police
the police department that have said, hey, this bus driver's speeding, here's the bus number, blah, blah, blah. And I've been here for, 24 years, and we rarely get complaints about bus drivers.
Well,
So,
I hear complaints, but not any specific drivers or, and then Nick Willett has said, when I do get a complaint, have the person call the bus company directly because it's more effective to have it come from the general public rather than having it continually coming from the school district.
Sure.
So, all right, so we need the city engineer probably in on this. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think what we need to do is have, maybe you can start a little ad hoc committee
Okay,
with the school district and the bus company, the city engineer and the chief of police, and get together and see what you can come up with. Short of, there's gonna be, outside of your guys' purview, it falls on us to figure out the road access. And if the road's crumbling under the weight, will slowing down help? Do we need to do a different bituminous underlayer on there, et cetera? There's a lot of work that would go into that conversation. I don't know, we don't have a magic answer,
And we don't
but
either.
maybe all of us together in a little committee and come up with some ideas, some solid ideas, and present it back to us so we can get it kind of rolling in the right direction.
Sure.
I don't want to penalize any one entity for the problem, it's what we have to deal with, it's our reality. So if we can figure it out properly,
yeah,
best way.
the city made the original recommendation to, because of the preliminary study. So it really is it's the city's purview, but we do need some changes. All right, so if you each could send me an email at district6@hudsonwi.gov, that would be helpful. Then I've got your information and I can take it from there.
Okay.
Lynn,
Thank you.
I just have a question. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. Do you feel like a sidewalk without having to reroute the buses, would a sidewalk be something that could resolve the issue without rerouting locations of buses and bus entrances?
I think sidewalks always help when it comes to that. It is tight back there and tight corners, and I think sidewalks always help when it comes to safety. And
Has the city looked at that at all when this has been coming up for 6 years?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I've been advocating for sidewalks along Oak Street and 12th, in that corner, because of the visibility issues and the narrowness of the street on Oak and the other problems there with traffic.
It ends up being a cost, a burden on the taxpayer unless the city,
Yeah. So does rerouting everything too, and if having to add extra stuff to the road. So I just wasn't sure if it had to be a both thing, or if the sidewalk would address that problem.
I think that's something
Yeah, that's,
definitely be part of the conversation, for sure.
That's it.
okay.
So we'll keep on touch base with Joyce, and then we can get the things moving hopefully in the right direction for you, Nick, and for everybody that kind of lives up there.
feel free to call our office anytime if you got questions about that.
Appreciate
Okay.
that. But let's partner and not butt heads on it.
No, for sure.
All right, I will set up a meeting, and I'll invite Tim and Nick to come in, take part in it too. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Just to remember to go for the Badger, we already approved that earlier in the year, so that is not on the agenda. Number B, Bridge to Valley Bike Rally. Is anybody here for that? No? Lieutenant, I don't think there was any issues. Is this we've had this before, I believe?
I think, if this is the same one that we've had in the past, then we haven't really had any issues with it, so.
I'm just double checking.
Will the,
It's the Rotary Club, sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
well, my only question was, will the sponsored rest stop at Lakefront Park need to apply for a permit to have that there? Or will the Rotary Club of Stillwater need to apply for that so that there's a permit so that it makes sure it's open and available?
They all have to apply for that permit.
Has that been done though for this? Because if we're supposed to be,
Yep.
I didn't see
It's
the
an
permit
attachment
application.
down, the application form, I think that the insurance is,
I just didn't see the part about the Lakefront Park, but it might have been in a small.
We'll double
print.
check.
Okay.
It's a good point. So follow up with Deb Andrews on that. Is this the first year of this one?
No, this is the second year.
Second, okay.
So were there any problems with it last year, do you know? Okay.
So I'll move for approval and contingent on the permit.
I'll second.
Clarify that. Any further conversation? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number E. Or did you, yeah. Which one were you here for, guys? Okay, we'll go right there. Parking on Industrial Street south of Hanley Road. I'm not sure of if you want to come to the podium, if there's an issue.
We don't have an issue. We don't have an issue. We're just trying to get to answer any questions you may have.
Well, what's happened is that the Hockey Association has expanded and more bigger sheets of ice, the construction's going on. So there's been a complaint by neighbors up there about the street parking. The initial thought when it was first brought up from this committee was to go one-side parking. I don't know if that's one of feasible things up there or not.
I believe part of it was due to construction in that area as well, that was causing it to be a little bit more of a
Jam.
jam there. The wording from Mike Mraz was may need to post that, so I don't know if that's actually been determined.
I'm sorry, post what?
The one side only.
I don't think it's been done, no. We didn't take any formal action on it. We couldn't because it was after the agenda,
Okay.
so now that's why it's in front of us now.
Okay.
And now, that's one of my district's areas, and I tell you, this is the only complaint I've had in I don't know how many years of that arena being there.
And I still think when we were talking about that, I believe that was during a construction component there, that it tied up other areas where people could normally have parked.
Yeah, I think if you read the complaint, it was, they couldn't get to their mailboxes.
But that was in the winter,
Yeah, the complaint is from February.
so,
It says construction has nothing to do with it. Whatever, I'm just reading it.
I think at times it does get pretty tight up there when there are hockey games, especially when it's, you know, a highly contested game and a lot of people show up. And then there have also been some times where there have been some events at the arena that aren't hockey related. I think they have a spring
The rummage sale thing.
Spring Fest and some
Yeah.
different things like that. And when cars are parked on both sides of the street, it can be a challenge in that immediate area. But what the solution to that would be, I guess, would be up to you folks.
well, here's what we're doing, we're displacing it, we're just pushing it further back into the rest of the spots where the roads are smaller and tighter, and we're pushing the problem away from the arena. Maybe we just need to hold on a second and wait and see what happens. And then once construction is done.
I think that's a good,
If we get another complaint, we'll take it up then.
How long is construction expected to last?
Should be about done in June. End of July. It'll be wrapped up in
Okay.
July. The other thing that'll help too is the parking lot is all getting resurfaced.
Sure.
It'll also be striped.
Okay.
So over the years, everything is kind of worn down. I think having the parking spots marked is gonna help people park correctly and be more efficient use of the lot. This past winter, as we talked about, the construction materials that had to be set in the parking lot took up spaces, and as well as the snow harvest too.
So this winter, things should be back to normal, so we'd be able to gauge it
Yes, I would say.
at that point.
The only time we overflow outside of our lot might be 5% of the time, and that's gonna involve a really highly contested high school game. You know, where the outside chance that if there's a snow day earlier in the year and no other choice, boys and girls varsity have to be scheduled on the same night, you can get a little bit busy at that point too. But other than that, I would say 95–96% of the time, our parking lot's sufficient to hold what we need.
I would say let's leave it
I think so,
until
too.
the fall. We can take a look at it. We get a complaint, we'll trigger it again and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
Plus, it'd be smart because we're doing this, winter parking odd even, so
yeah.
we'll do something twice, so.
Should we have a note to put it on our
Yeah.
agenda in, say, December or something like that?
August, September.
Okay,
Is that fair?
I think we should put it on after we have the ordinance or what we've decided to do with the.
Well, hopefully that
winter
comes sooner
parking.
than later, but
So put it on for whenever that's done, then we'll talk about that at a later meeting.
okay,
I don't think we need formal action on that.
all right.
Thanks, guys. You bet. All right, back to number E, parking on Cooley Road. This was brought up, we got a complaint, and, it happens very rarely, but it's when Nova has their cave festivals, beer, wine, scotch, and they end up parking both sides of the street, and it is a little scary and hairy when you're down there, and then you've got people that have consumed alcohol. It happens, and that's what kind of event it is. We could, and we've been lucky not to have a major incident down there. But vehicles such as yours probably would have trouble getting up and down there.
Cooley's wide enough, I think. I think it's just that it's tight, like, for passing in and out of there, it's pretty bad, and I think it goes back to the whole sidewalk thing. All these people coming to an event have only a sidewalk on one side, and are trying to cross over
Right.
two vehicles to get to the event, and,
Now, I'm trying to remember, from normally on the north side of Cooley, from, let's say where that water little fountain was, or whatever, the water was coming out of the hill on that
Yep.
side. Past that house, I think, has been no parking, if I'm correct. Does that ring
I
a bell?
can't even picture what is
I don't
parking
think
over
so.
there.
I think you can park,
Yeah.
you can park all the way up and down,
Yep.
up
Can
and
you?
down that,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And that's where it gets tight.
I think it brings up a good point. I mean, it's dangerous down there during those events, but I don't want to poo-poo the event because they're very nice and they're well-attended.
No,
Hence
but
the
we,
problem.
but we do have, I mean, pedestrian safety is really important. If people are trying to cross the street and it's tight and
Well,
crowded
it sounds
there.
like the concern was more about the marking on the road, that there's no clear markings for where you can park. I mean, when he's talking, or she's talking in here about, nothing is marked for parking on either side.
Yeah, but I think the way the road's designed, there is not actually a designated parking lane.
On either side?
There is?
So they're not supposed to be parking on that road at all?
Well, I don't know.
No, they can.
Yeah.
It's legal to park. Maybe when they have their big events, you do a no parking on one side, because we have the city has the ability to put up those, or give them the temporary no parking this side of the street, and they, block one side of the street from parking, so there's only one side that you can park on, and then that still gives you the width to be able to get vehicles both, in both directions.
I think that's probably the best way to start.
Plus, then you would, pedestrian traffic won't have to be crossing for the safety concern as well.
Yeah. How would you put that in the permit
Well-
process, or we gotta send them a letter? Because they don't come for us to, they don't come to get a special
Oh,
permit.
so they don't need
I
a
don't
special
believe they
permit
do.
for the event then?
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Because it's already on their property that they serve alcohol within that zone.
Yeah, that would maybe be then somebody from the city would have to call them and maybe just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, next time you have an event, maybe do this.
Yeah. I think
Because I
start
guess
with,
if it's not tied to a permit, then maybe it's not something that can be forced.
start with Jeff doing that, and then if we need to, we'll get city clerk involved, and then either or, if they don't want to do that, then we're gonna have to get tougher for the safety of the people.
I think even the way people, if you look at something that's how people park, they actually park on the lawn. Like, they get half their vehicle up off the curb.
Yeah.
So I think even they're worried about how tight it is,
Yeah.
So if they only have parking on the south side so that they don't have to cross the street to get to the event, then
Yeah.
that would solve a lot of that problem. Okay.
That's where it should go, yeah, we post off the north side of Cooley. So I'll move that we notify Nova, that during those special events, they have to get Jeff involved, chief of police, to sign the north side of the Cooley Road as no parking.
I'll second that.
And we can clean it up however we want and make it sound better, if you will.
More of a friendly conversation than.
Yeah, yeah.
Just,
For sure. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries, thank you. All right, number 8, pedestrian safety on Vine Street and 9th Street. This came up from,
Yeah, from Brooke Fleetwood,
Yeah.
and she's not here. I was expecting that she would be able to come. So I think that Aaron needs to be looking at that to determine what would be the ideal.
it's a bad place, it's
It
a
is.
blind spot.
Yes, if you're heading up the hill, you can't see what's going on at the corner there, so that is a problem.
So if you're turning left up to the cemetery, you don't necessarily see what's coming up Vine Street from the
Yep.
west. You know, and I don't know, you know me, I don't like putting signs up on every time we hear something, but there could be a legitimate reason.
That one could be a legitimate four-way stop.
But that might be something we can put then with when we get our traffic calming thing that.
Yes.
Because, so that we're following a consistent procedure that you receive this is what we try first and gathering information. And so it's data driven, not.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think that might be great time for us to, just to postpone this until we have that.
And I'm not sure why traffic taming wasn't on this agenda.
Yeah,
But we'll get it on next time, for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
that sounds good.
And we'll invite Aaron to that meeting.
And that's why this couple's here.
Yeah, and Stephen, you guys can come up and talk about in general with this, as far as speeding, and I know your particular corner is 11th and Laurel.
Yes, thank you this afternoon for having me. Steve O'Connell at 101 11th Street South, up on 11th and Laurel. Hi, Chief. And this isn't a new thing. This has been going on for years, and I've kind of been silent to a point. I've been on city committees and different things, and I've known most of the people at City Hall, and I've known so many of the officers over the year, and fire, and so we used to talk a lot and just talk about it a lot. We didn't, you know, and so I go back where past chief of police came up and talked and looked at everything, and they were doing some road construction at that time, and so the state, county, and the city put out their counters when the road got all fixed, and he came back to me and he shook his head and he says, "Man, we're blown away. We didn't realize, no one realized it. You're like 400% more traffic than the city has you on the, you know, the usages and the road redoings, and you're like the fourth busiest or third busiest intersection in the city of Hudson at this point." Oh, I knew it. I lived there for 30 years now. I haven't called the chief because I know he's busy. I appreciate what they're doing already. I know this is just our corner. I can go any way in any direction probably. I've talked to so many officers and they can tell me all the hot spots, and it is kind of funny. We have a lot of accidents up there, and I'll go out and sweep the streets up while they're taking notes, and we just do our thing together. We work pretty well. And they said, "I will tell you, I've had so many officers tell me this is the craziest intersection in this city." Personally, you know, they can't write that down or anything, but they said it is nutty. We've had 3 policemen standing there. I've been standing with them, and people have sped right by them and run the stop sign as we're standing in the intersection. And everyone just kind of, you know, does the look, like, really? But it happens. It used to not be. I could count a few a week years ago. I can count dozens a day now. And today alone, I saw a guy come down 11th. He knew he was there. He knew the stop sign. He was racing. I could hear it coming. And he probably jumped her at 30, 40 miles an hour because he looked both ways quick, and he never did try to slow down. He just looked. And just beyond the corner were 30, well, there's 100 and some, but the first group of 30 EP rockers coming back from their annual picnic to cross the street there. He looked at them, knew they were there, still blew it at 30, 40 miles an hour, and went flying down. He had to be at 50 by the time Morrison and Summer Street, you know, and then they hit the skids, and it works that way both ways. It's day and night. What I want to do, I'm not here to complain. I'm here because now all my neighbors are involved, and that shocked me. It didn't shock me. I'm glad they did, but I didn't get them going. They got going on their own. And I want to do anything I can to help solve it. You know, what can we do? I don't have the only answers, and because so much is going on this summer alone, I guess Laurel up to my stop sign is going to be repaved after you get this 3rd Street Hill thing figured out and all done. That's going to be nice. I will jokingly say it will be a new drag strip because you're giving them a brand new surface.
We could put you in a cop uniform and sit you on the lawn
Oh,
chair
I've suggested, and even the officers have said, you want to go, you want a part-time?
with a radar gun, and then you start writing
Well, I've
license
been asked to
plates
sit in the
down.
car with the radar gun because I used to sit next to the car.
Now you want a car.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could, you know, put Barney on it. I don't care. But I've gone out when the officer sits right on our curb out there, which what Marty instituted when he was chief, and got it going because he saw how bad it was. And you know, I got pretty good at rating the speed before without looking at the radar, so I know what they're doing. And I even confessed to him one day that, you know, I followed a few things, and I don't want to get into names and problems, and I'm kind of glad, well, I'm on. But, you know, I followed school buses, it's everything. You know, 45 on 11th Street, really?
Yeah.
And-
We, you know, Steve, we have a committee now, and I know you pay attention, you know this. We're trying to get something together to address all the whole, every area in Hudson, including zero tolerance of enforcement.
Yeah, we've seen so much.
Well, you know, nothing works better than a picture, and, you know, if I had the money, I have the perfect spot to take the whole intersection in, just for the sake of confirming because everyone thought I was exaggerating, and I haven't even told you really how bad it is.
But on your particular intersection, you said you could probably use larger stop signs. for
Well, back
starters.
when Tom was, you know, head of Public Works, he came up, and, you know, half these guys in Public Works were my friends or classmates, you know, so we talked a lot. And he said, well, I'm not sure why it happened, but he knew how bad the intersection was. He says, we have 3 sizes. This is just him telling me. And you have the smallest stop sign, so I'll just go get the big ones and we'll put them out. And well, he never got it done, never made it. The other suggestion is, you know, and that's what I'm trying to do now. I know things take time. I understand. I just found out 11th Street's possibly going to be reconstructed in some way and repaved and done, and possible sidewalks. Well, when you bring those things in, that could help certain things too, but it's not going to solve it all. But, you know, before you do something that you don't need because you've improved something else. So anyway, if we could just, they came yesterday because Joy, I'm sorry, she was going to be here tonight, I think, but got them to restripe the intersection because all the lines have been totally gone. You can't even tell now. The bike lanes, everything's gone. So they did the intersection yesterday, and that was, I can actually tell people are seeing, you know, they did it really wide. And I noticed they were kind of stopping. You know, they saw the line, so there was something to say, okay, here's where I stop. But if we could do just something in the interim that is cheap, like just replace, I know the signs are in the shop, I used to work in the city garage, and, you know, if they could just pop the signs up this summer and get them bigger.
Elliot, can you make a note of that?
The simple things, get the lines back on the road, spray them
They're
out.
coming. It's a 2-man crew, and we have 1 unit to do it.
And I know the chief would probably use about 2 dozen more of those temporary speed signs that he put down a few weeks ago. They put them on. Well, they moved them one side then the other, then took them away, but all the neighbors thought they were permanent. And they
The
just
ones that tell the speed, is that the, yeah.
and they kind of worked a little. And
It
they
does
thought they
work,
were
yeah.
permanent, you know, and they aren't, obviously. I said, no, those are just temporary. And oh, God, why, I thought
A
we were
couple
getting,
locations, they are permanent, but
Yeah.
that's a public works thing that,
yeah.
you know.
There's
And I've
some
been
funds
on
behind
town for
that.
10 years to get signs like, they were the first ones in Hudson, the LED stop signs up at the Y. And, or a flashing light, anything that would help bring attention. Because I know half of them running it, it's a real philosophy. We've talked with the mayors in the past, we've talked with police. They take off from Summer, they run that one too by the funeral home, but not as much. But when they're going north, they know that their next stop in their mind is the T in the road at the cemetery. And so by the time they get to me, they're already cruising and they forget. Because all they want to do is get to that left or right. And so it's a mental thing, part of it is. And we know that.
Well, and a lot of it is, all right, so you've got a wide street that's got room for parking, but not too many people are parking on it.
Not too many.
So then that makes it, people feel more comfortable going fast along that. What we've done on Chestnut is we've put in temporary speed humps. And so we found that just lowering the speed limit to 15 on Chestnut did nothing. But putting in the speed humps has really made a difference there. So anything that you can do to make it physically harder for them to speed. So narrowing the road by putting in some kind of a center mark. So if you're on 9th, there's, have you been on 9th between Vine and St. Croix? So there's the temporary poles there. That's for calming the traffic as well. So what we're working on is getting a traffic calming policy so that we can look at all these and say, all right, which of these solutions is the best one for this
Yeah.
neighborhood?
And I like the sign that you put up on, is it 17th, behind the old Goodwill going into Gulfview there, has the blinker and the crosswalk thing. It's really scary. I've gone out many times to help people cross the street.
Yeah.
When a woman with a stroller and a toddler takes 3 tries to walk in the crosswalk to cross and they won't let her, I get mad and I go out and I've stopped. I've had a truck come up and bump into me while I've let her cross and tell me to get out of his way. And I said, you're at a stop sign. I don't care. And I just go like this to the woman in a stroller crossing. I don't care. Well, I can't help that. And that's always going to happen to some people.
Appreciate all you do up there, Steve.
Well,
But you gotta be
I work
careful.
for the city. My dad was chief of police. He was a fireman. I grew up in this thing.
I know, but you gotta
love
be
it. I'll be
careful
this
now.
way all my life.
Yeah.
I don't explain it. I don't excuse it. I've always been that way. I can't stop it. It's going to happen. And when the accidents happen, usually my wife, she's home more now, and we run out. Like the last 2 accidents a couple of weeks ago, she took care of the kids in the car, and I, got the police up, and we, got the kids settled and all that. And that's somebody, if you're there, do it.
So what we'll do now is Lieutenant, make a note to do some more enforcement on that intersection. For starters, and then we'll notify.
Well, they're busy, and I understand that, and they have so many, and what's funny about it is they can't sit there more than usually 2 minutes. We used to have to actually have a contest, and because it doesn't matter, even a marked car, unmarked would be fun, because they'll really race through on that one, you'll have a reason. But they stop the car, and they go around the block, park, within 2 minutes, they have another, it just goes, and then they get called out.
Yeah.
And if that's all we can do, that's great, but, I just feel, the reason I haven't called, I know how busy they are. I've always supported, I know, I talked to so many officers, I know, because we are on 2 major streets, the cars are going by and the fire trucks come by my house on the
We
route.
do appreciate it, and it just, you gotta be
day and
careful,
night,
but
so,
as we keep going, the next few meetings, feel free to come to the next ones and keep in tune on what we're doing as far as getting that traffic taming policy together.
yeah.
We're really trying to do it and do it right, and it shouldn't take this long, but it has. We'll get on it even, more, but we're gonna find something.
And, if they're looking for subcommittees or, input or anything, I'd be happy to be. I've been on public boards and city council boards and board of appeals and all those things before, so I'm familiar with a lot of it, and I don't know what it is I can do, but, I can give facts and figures and I can help, and, whatever it is, I'd like to be part of it if you
Appreciate
need
it.
help and things. So other than that, I thank you for your time, and if we can just look at some of the quick fixes,
Yeah,
that-
and we noted that, so.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you,
Thank you
Steve.
very much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
So we're gonna hold over 9th Street and Vine,
Yeah.
okay, to the next meeting. Number 5, any informational items? No. Number 6 is EMS, fire, and police updates, fire.
No, just the previous month's call volume handed out to you with the times of day and days with the calls. May was exceptionally busy. We're creeping up every month. It's no different than police. It's becoming a busy city, right? A busy area, and nothing out of the ordinary, but busier and busier. I don't really have much.
Are you full staff?
We are, yeah.
Okay.
Well, yes,
You got some probies?
we do, yeah, yep. 5 of them right now, so,
Good.
yep. So we're looking at maybe bringing one more on this summer yet, potentially, so. But yeah, we're at full staff.
Any concerns about staying staffed?
There's always that concern. Our average age of our department is like 48, which is old for a fire department.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of guys at that top end in their 60s. and we're not necessarily finding young people to come in on the bottom.
Okay.
So the other component to everything is too, as everybody's lives get busier, yes, I have a full roster, but my ability to get people to come in for calls is getting less and less. So, we've seen a 21% decrease in the amount of personnel on average per call, which isn't a lot when you look at it. So we're going from about 18 to 14 per call, but it's slowly starting to trend down. But as we do get younger people, everybody has families. Somebody's got things going on. I mean, it's a national problem. It's not just us, but
Maybe when retired cops, you get some there.
but that doesn't help my median age, though.
Yeah, bring it up.
So
So,
no,
so is it time to start studying a full-time staff?
I've actually talked to Aaron about that. He's aware of it. Not in the immediate future, but I think going forward, where we would probably start to look at is daytime. That's where we really struggle to get people during the day.
Okay, yes.
That, and as you can
That's when
see
you've
by our
got the
call
most
volume,
volume,
between
yeah.
8 and 6, most of it. The number's a little skewed this year because one blizzard in April
Oh,
threw off a complete weekend day, threw off a Saturday, right?
oh, okay.
But
Oh, so
those
this is
calls
an
in between-
anomaly?
That's an anomaly, and those calls between midnight and 3 a.m., 4 a.m. spiked because of the
Oh, that's an
snowstorm.
anomaly as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so this part is pretty accurate, but,
yep, the stuff on
and
the
this
left
part's
is-
pretty accurate,
yep.
but this should be smaller?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, that one snowstorm did us in. There was 30-some calls in 12 hours, so.
yeah.
No.
That'll do it.
But, no, and I think the big thing, like I mentioned last time, is I'm gonna put in for another fire inspector next year. With all the construction that's going on in the city right now, we're just barely keeping our head above water.
Well,
between
you've got
Mike
all
and I.
those bars and,
We're doing all the liquor
Restaurant
licenses,
stuff.
but yeah, so, yeah. So anyways, just for information, but I'll keep giving you guys that every month just to show the trends.
Thank you. Lieutenant, Police Department updates.
We're busy, of course, this is our busy time of the year with school getting out and then just with the river, with the boat launch being open and, just even driving around middle of the day, it's just packed downtown already. I don't know, where all these people come from, but,
Nobody works.
I know, jeez. We're busy on that end of it. And we're just getting ready for, Pride Fest that's coming up. And then Booster Days, of course, planning for all that. And then we just started, one of our new officers, he just started field training.
Yep.
So that puts us at full staff. He's number 30 out of 30. So
Nice.
we're holding our own for staffing, so.
And for you guys' record, you'll see that Jeff put calls for service report on in your email packet. Any questions for Jason, Lieutenant?
If I may, the May calls for service this year might look a little higher because we covered for the county for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
You might notice some differences.
okay. Number 7, communications and items for the future agendas. Anything?
I think we've got, we got our hands full already with
Just,
all of it.
yeah, just make sure we get that traffic taming policy back on the agenda. Put it there for now until we get it out of committee.
Okay.
Any other business?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
We'll stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody.